सुनने वालों को सिराज ज़ैदी का बहुत बहुत प्यार भरा आदाब, नमस्कार and good afternoon. Welcome to Apna Radio, broadcasting at 93.9 Dublin South FM. Each Thursday from 3 to 4, I'm here broadcasting from the studio to the world. Tune me in. सुनने वालों को सिराज ज़ैदी का बहुत बहुत आदाब, नमस्कार and good afternoon. You're very welcome to the program. Another program, the last program of the month of May. May is nearly gone. I'm here until 4 o'clock local time and 8:30 India time. Hopefully you'll keep joining me and keep tuning me until the time is up. Hopefully you'll enjoy the show. And this is your own Apna Radio, broadcasting at 93.9 Dublin South FM. Each Thursday, I'm here with you and hopefully with my listeners all over the world and ever so increasing globally our listeners through our YouTube channel. You are listening and getting a benefit of what's going on in our country, in India, because a lot of things in India you cannot hear or see or listen what I can do here by sitting in Ireland, in Dublin. Anyway, that's a controversial statement I just made. But that's not the case. It's a great program. Today is the, hopefully you will, you'll enjoy the program because it has all the, tapestry of the Indian effort around the world. But before that, I would not delay any longer for you to listen and sit back and enjoy the news of the week. So Charmain Colvin is here. Take it away, Charmain.
Good afternoon. You are listening to Apna Radio 93.9 Dublin South FM. I'm Charmain Colvin and here's your weekly news update. On India this week, a former colleague principal in the eastern Indian state of Odisha has been sentenced to life in prison for sending a parcel bomb that killed a newlywed man and his great-aunt in 2018. A court found Punjilal Meher, 56, guilty of murder, attempted murder and use of explosives in what became known as the wedding bomb case that rocked India. The bomb, disguised as a wedding gift, was delivered to the home of a 26-year-old software engineer just days after his wedding. When the couple opened the package, it exploded, killing Sohu and his great-aunt and leaving his wife critically wounded. Despite the prosecution's argument that it was a heinous crime, the court declined to classify it as deserving of the death penalty. Investigators believe that Meher harboured a grudge against professional rivalry and that he meticulously planned the attack. Meher's undoing came when he sent an anonymous letter to the police, which the victim's mother, a college teacher, identified as the writing style and phraseology of a colleague Meher, a former principal which she had replaced. The former head of India's Wrestling Federation has been cleared in a sexual harassment case filed by a minor female wrestler. A court in the capital Delhi accepted a Delhi police report recommending the cancellation of the case against Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh. A former MP from the governing BJP, Singh still faces charges of sexual harassment and stalking in a separate case by 6 adult female wrestlers. Singh has always denied these charges. The cases against Singh made headlines in 2023 when he was charged with sexual harassment after months of protests by India's top wrestlers. The protests made headlines globally, especially after the police detained them as they tried to march to India's new parliament building in Delhi. Footage of the Olympic medalists Sakshi Malik and Bajrang Punia and the two-time world champion medalist Vinesh Phogat being dragged in the streets and carried off in police vans went viral, sparking criticism from top athletes and opposition politicians. The International Olympic Committee also condemned the way the wrestlers were being treated and called for an impartial inquiry into their complaints. The government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi was criticised for not acting strongly or swiftly enough against Singh since he was a member of their party. The government has rejected the allegations. Global makers of surveillance gear have clashed with Indian regulators in recent weeks over contentious new security rules that require manufacturers of CCTV cameras to submit hardware, software and source code for assessment in government labs. According to Indian policymakers, India is concerned about China's sophisticated surveillance capabilities and the possibility of spying, since over 1 million cameras in Indian government institutions were supplied by Chinese companies, bringing vulnerability with video data transferred to servers abroad. Under new requirements, applicable from April, manufacturers such as China's Hikvision must submit cameras for testing by Indian government labs before they can sell them into the world's most populous nation. A strong wheat harvest in India is rapidly replenishing stocks, meaning the country will be able to meet domestic demand without imports this year, contrary to market talk that it would need overseas supplies and a potential drag on global prices. India banned exports of the staple in 2022 and extended the prohibition as extreme heat shriveled crops again in 2023 and 24, draining reserves, pushing prices to record highs and fueling speculation it would need imports for the first time since 2017. However, things are improving for the world's number 2 wheat producer, with early state inventory purchases signalling that this year's crop is about 4 million tonnes bigger than last year's. A successful trade agreement between India and the US could boost exports and unlock new market access, India's finance ministry said in its monthly economic review earlier this week. A successful US-India trade agreement could flip current headwinds into tailwinds, opening up new market access and energising exports, the report said. Indian Trade Minister Piyush Goyal visited Washington last week to advance trade talks with both sides, aiming to sign an interim agreement by early July. New Delhi is seeking to clinch a trade deal with the US within the 90-day pause on tariff hikes, announced by US President Donald Trump on April the 9th, for major trading partners, which includes a 26% tariff on imports from India. The US is India's largest trading partner, with bilateral trade totaling about $129 billion in 2024. The trade balance is currently in favour of India, which runs a $45.7 billion surplus with the United States. And finally, Indian filmmaker Neeraj Gaiwan's new film, Homebound, premiered this week at the Cannes Film Festival, ending with a 9-minute-long standing ovation. The film was inspired by an article he read during the pandemic about the millions of Indians who trekked thousands of miles on foot to get home during India's strict lockdown, and also about the childhood friendship of 2 men, one a Muslim and the other a Dalit, formerly known as the Untouchables. The film has also received backing from a rather unexpected quarter. Academy Award winner Martin Scorsese stepped in last month as executive producer, the first time he has supported a contemporary Indian film. Until now, he has only backed restored classic Indian films. So that's all on India this week. You have been listening to Apna Radio 93.9 Dublin South FM.
Thank you very much indeed, Charmain, for a lovely news item that you put together. And Martin Scorsese's hello. In Cannes this year, I've noticed that so many Indian film producer and the filmmaker and, of course, the entourage from the Indian government were there. And they had been going there for years and years promoting Indian cinema. But now, on commercial films, Bollywood films are now finding their way into Cannes, and producers are wooing the Hollywood producers such as Martin Scorsese and also other co-producers, and Boman Irani was there, Anupam Kher was there promoting his film, the incredible Tanvi the Great and all that. So a lot of Indians are now finding it Cannes as discovering Cannes, in fact, which I've given up altogether because I used to get some bum rash and going around and come back twice a year to Cannes, promoting my films, promoting my projects and things like that. But it's really a bummer until your film is selected in some of the categories. But a lot of people go there just for fun. But a lot of people are enjoying the fact that, they're discovering Cannes for years and years. It was just restricted to the European and Hollywood films, but now increasingly Bollywood is taking over. And of course, the pageantry goes along with that. And this year, the pageantry was there. Janhvi Kapoor was there, in a gala and all that in that film. I don't know the film that Charmain has mentioned, but I shall be looking into that as well, because I really want to keep an eye on the films that are making news and waves. But there's a new thing that Martin Scorsese has become the executive producer of the film, so that really remains to be seen. Anyway, we're talking about India this week, and India this week was the Charmain's news item. But another item which is making headlines and news all over the world is the delegation that Modi ji has actually sent to the world, 32 countries, or 34 countries, in fact. The delegation led by Shashi Tharoor, and also led by the Awasthi, those who are really a good parliamentary speakers. So perhaps the parliament goes in recess in the summer holiday, and people are looking for destination to go here, there, and everywhere. And Modi ji has conveniently avoiding any criticism at home for his policies, for his action, kick them out and go out and badmouth and talk about the Operation Sindoor, and tell the world what has happened. So that is happening, and Sharad has put together, in fact, a rather nice piece on that. Well, bad-mouthing is not really an appropriate word, I would say. They are talking sense, in fact. They're talking something that has happened, obviously a very nasty incident. I've done several programs on the Pahalgam atrocities and all that. But what is now, this is a new policy to go out in the world and make contacts with the governments of Middle Eastern countries. Bahrain is a spineless country, by the way. It's owned by Saudi Arabia. It's the second country that is Saudi Arabia is literally owns. They don't have, the kingdom has no democracy or anything like that. They are dictators themselves. But there our delegation is there and talking about what happened in Pahalgam and everything. So it's worth listening. And what Sharad has put together is a rather interesting item about the history of terrorism and the history of Indian resilience.
For being here. It's amazing on a Saturday night of the Memorial Day weekend that we were able to get such a star turnout, and thank you all for coming. I had a chance to say hello to many of you during the reception, but some of you I haven't, and I do want to say hello and acknowledge with gratitude your presence here this evening. My colleagues and I literally arrived this afternoon, and our first stop was the September 11 memorial. It was obviously a very moving moment for us, but it was also meant to send a very strong message that we are here in a city which is bearing still the scars of that savage terrorist attack, in the wake of yet another terrorist attack in our own country. Unlike the US, I'm afraid we've had to endure a very much larger number of terrorist attacks in India. But we came both as a reminder that this is a shared problem, but also out of a spirit of solidarity with the victims, who included Indians, as Indra was reminding me, someone, a young Indian working in her own company, was one of the victims of 9/11. Indians, Americans, and very many other nationalities who were affected. It's a global problem, it's a scourge, and we must all fight it unitedly. So that was a very important message to convey, and my colleagues and I did that by going to the memorial and leaving roses on some of the names around the memorial pool. And having done that, we are now proceeding, as has been mentioned already, to 4 other countries before returning to the US, not to New York, but to Washington, D.C. on the 3rd of June, when Congress will come back from its recess as well. So our idea is very much to speak to a cross-section of public and political opinion in each of the countries we are going to about recent events which obviously trouble a number of people around the world and which now have subsided. There is a reasonable amount of calm that's reigning on the border between India and Pakistan today, but the fundamental underlying problem remains, and it's important that we try and enlarge your understanding of our thinking and our concerns about what's going on. So it's for us an opportunity. We will be in every country meeting members of the executive, meeting members of the legislature, meeting think tankers and influential foreign policy experts, and at the same time interacting with the media and public opinion in every one of these places. We're on our way to Guyana tonight, where Independence Day celebrations are about to take place, and we'll be seeing the President and the Foreign Minister and members of Parliament there, and we carry on similar programs in these other countries. Vinay had asked me to say a few words about what happened. By way of context, I mean, I think you're all aware that India has tried to be focused on a very different narrative from some of our neighbors. Our focus for some years now has been on being the world's fastest growing free market democracy, attempting to focus on the development of our economy, our high emphasis on technology and technological growth, and pulling large numbers of people from below the poverty line, not just into the 21st century, but into the world and the opportunities that the 21st century offers. And perhaps in that process we had allowed ourselves in some ways to be complacent may be too unkind a word, but we had not perhaps braced ourselves sufficiently for the malign influences in our neighborhood that did not want that story, that narrative to be told in an uninterrupted manner. We had been seeing in Jammu and Kashmir, which, as you know, has for the long time been coveted by our neighbors on the other side, Pakistan, we had been seeing not just peace, but increasing prosperity. In fact, Vinay gave me this wonderful nugget that the number of tourists in Kashmir last year was double the number of tourists in Aspen, Colorado last year. So that was the kind of not just normalcy, but growth, prosperity that the people of Kashmir were enjoying as Indians and foreigners were flocking to Kashmir for tourism. So some people decided that they would want, first of all, to attack that process of normalization. Second, to undermine the overall Indian narrative as well as the prosperity of the people of Kashmir. Third, by doing so in an atrocious manner, that is, it was not just a terrorist attack of somebody indiscriminately blowing up people with a bomb, it was a bunch of people going around identifying the religion of the people before them and killing them on that basis, which was clearly intended to provoke a backlash in the rest of India, since the victims were overwhelmingly Hindu. In fact, 26 people died, 25 Indians and 1 Nepalese, and the Nepalese happened, of course, didn't get a chance to say he was Nepalese, but he was a Hindu, so he would have probably been killed anyway. And quite astonishingly, one person who wasn't killed was a Hindu professor who happened to be able to recite the Kalima, the first verse of the Quran, and therefore was not shot, which is a very interesting.
Now, that is the reason for me playing this clip, because this is not something sitting happily with me, and I would really am in the process of writing to Mr. Shashi Tharoor, that a scholar of his nature, that he is such a big scholar, and he is a hugely intellectual person, written many books. But here on this speech, if you rewind the speech again and if you listen to it, he has said that this professor, Hindu professor, has actually recited the first verses of Kalima, the first verses of Quran, which is absolutely not correct. Quran doesn't have the Kalima as a first verse. Kalima, in fact, is not mentioned in Quran in a verse form. It's been, the oneness of God has been mentioned many times, but it's not the Kalima itself, which is a declaration of accepting Islam, called Shahada. And that is a biggest mistake Mr. Shashi Tharoor has made. I wish he could have checked it before he announced that professor have proclaimed Kalima as a first verse of Quran. Anyway, that's the reason I played that clip. And that's exactly what he's doing around the world with the delegation, as I was mentioning earlier on. But Sharad has got more information about all of that. and hopefully you would be able to understand the total, the total kind of the reason why people are going over there. It's a supporting the delegation. So sit back, relax, and listen to what Sharad has got to say.
Concerted diplomatic outreach, an Indian delegation comprising members of parliament is currently visiting 32 countries to assert India's solid resolve against terrorism and to build global consensus around counter-terror action. In parallel, we at Apna Radio also would like to support our diplomats and Indians across the world in engaging directly with the international community to present a clear account of the brutal Pahalgam attack and to articulate its principled, determined and proportionate response. Today, we want to contextualize India's position not just as a regional power facing persistent terror threats, but as a responsible democracy, calling for a united global stance against the forces of extremism and violence. 1995, Tokyo subway sarin attack. 1995, Oklahoma city bombing. 2001, 9/11 attacks in United States. 2004, Madrid train bombing in Spain. 2005, London 7/7 bombing. 2015, Paris attack. 2016, Brussels bombing. 2016 again, Nice truck attack in France. 2017, Manchester arena bombing. 2017, London bridge attack. 2017 again, Westminster knife attack. 2018, Christmas market shooting in France. 2020, Vienna shooting, and the list goes on. These are some of the terror attacks the world has seen since 1995. And it is a very strong message to all cities and towns of the world, which is bearing still the scars of those terror attacks. And it is an wake of yet another terror attack in our own country, India. Unlike other countries, India has endured many more number of terrorist attacks. So, India wants to remind the world that terrorism, extremism is a shared problem, and also out of the spirit of solidarity with the victims of terror across the world. In a world still haunted by the memory of terror attacks, be it New York to Nairobi, Paris to Mumbai, the international community must recognize a stark truth. Terrorism knows no borders, and its reach continues to devastate families, societies, and entire nations. India, bearing one of the heaviest burdens of this global scourge, reaffirms its commitment to peace, justice, and responsible action in the face of persistent threats. India has endured more than 30 major terrorist attacks since 2001, and that includes 2008 Mumbai attacks, in which over 175 people from 14 nationalities were killed. The wounds of such incidents are deep and enduring. Unlike many nations that have suffered sporadic violence, India lives with a near continuous threat, often emanating from the western neighbor Pakistan. And this is a reality that deserves greater global recognition. The Pahalgam attack is yet the latest tragic reminder in which 26 innocent civilians, 25 Indians and 1 Nepalese were murdered. Not just a violent act, but a premeditated attempt to fracture India's social fabric. The attackers were members of so-called Resistance Front, which is a known proxy of Lashkar-e-Taiba, and they targeted victims based on religious identity, forcing them to reveal their faith before execution. During the incident, one chilling case involved a Hindu professor who was spared only because he recited the Kalima, the Islamic declaration of faith. Another victim, a Kashmiri Muslim pony operator, died heroically trying to save tourists from the attackers. These accounts underscore the brutality of the act and the failure of its intended outcome to provoke sectarian violence in India. But then the opposite happened. In Kashmir, which is a 95% Muslim majority region, there was a widespread shutdown the next day in pure solidarity with the victims. Across the country, Indians of all backgrounds mourned together, grieved together. A young woman whose father was killed while walking their twin sons later recounted how 2 Kashmiri Muslim men saved her and her children, even helping her retrieve her father's body from the morgue. Those stories reaffirm the resilience and the unity of Indian people. While India's sorrow was profound, it did not succumb to rage or reckless aggression. Instead, India opted for a response that was firm, proportionate, and intelligent. On the early morning, 1 a.m. of the 7th May, Indian armed forces carried out surgical strikes on 9 terrorist facilities across the border into Pakistan. Targets included Lashkar-e-Taiba's notorious Mudrike headquarters near Lahore, 𝐀𝐩𝐧𝐚 camps in Bahawalpur and Muzaffarabad, and several launch pads used to infiltrate terrorists into Indian territories. India's strikes were executed at the time to minimize civilian presence. India did communicate clearly through military channels that its operation was a one-time retaliatory action, not an escalation. And this message was simple, that India will respond to terrorism but not provoke war. But then, unfortunately, Pakistan escalated and the world saw the 88-hour conflict. Pakistan retaliated with shelling across the border, killing 19 civilians. Over 59 people were injured and some were grievous injuries. Pakistan continued to follow this with drones and missile incursions, and this prompted India to respond. Therefore, on the night of 9th and 10th, Indian forces struck 11 Pakistani military targets, including an air base in Rawalpindi, which is just 1.5 kilometers from Pakistan's military headquarters. It was only after this forceful response that Pakistan initiated contact through DGMO hotline seeking de-escalation. India agreed immediately, reaffirming that its intention was not war but deterrence. A message to the terrorist. Of course, the 88-hour conflict left scars and sorrow, particularly among civilian populations. Yet it demonstrated India's solid resolve to protect its people, balanced with a measured and ethical military doctrine. The resistance front, which claimed responsibility for the Pahalgam massacre, is a front for Lashkar-e-Taiba, a group designated as terrorist organization by the United Nations, the United States, and the European Union. India did submit detailed dossier to the UN Sanctions Committee in 2023 and 24 earlier, warning about the front's activity. Yet, international inertia persisted, and that's where the global culpability exists. Worse, at Pakistan's urging and with China's support, the UN Security Council's press statement omitted any mention of the resistance front, and this act of deliberate omission betrayed the very principle the United Nations claims to uphold. The world must ask, are diplomatic gamemanship and the geopolitical alignments more important than justice for victims of terrorism across the world? As anybody's observation, India's position is not aggressive, it is assertive. It is not about vengeance, it's about justice. India continues to advocate for a comprehensive global convention on international terrorism, which unfortunately is stalled at the UN for decades now. India asks for greater sanction enforcement against terrorist organizations and their state sponsors. And India firmly appeals for an end to the politicization of counter-terrorism in multilateral forums. Today, the Indian government, the opposition, civil society, media, they are all united in this cause. And therefore, India seeks support, not sympathy from the global community. India seeks cooperation, not conflict. And India seeks clarity, not complacency against terrorism. Despite the bloodshed, India's pluralism, unity in diversity remains intact. A country of 1.4 billion people, representing all major religions and hundreds of languages, did not fracture in the face of hate. That is India's strength. The story of Kashmiris mourning Hindu victims and Muslims saving Hindu children represent the true India, a resilient India, inclusive India, and a strong democracy. We may have our problems, our own share of problems, our internal problems. We may have differences of opinion. But then today, India is a face to the world of a strong nation, of a strong democracy. India's message to the world is clear. Terrorism cannot be defeated by one country alone. It requires collective resolve, coordinated intelligence sharing, financial crackdowns, and the moral clarity to call out sponsors of the hate without fear or favor. That is India's appeal. If you see the list I had read out earlier, terrorists seek to sow chaos and division, And when communities stand together, when government act responsibly, and when the world refuses to look away, terrorism fails. India's response to the Pahalgam attack and the unity of Indians offer a clear blueprint for global resistance to hate. To the friends in the international community, it is an appeal from an Indian from the platforms of peace. Stand with India, stand with us, not just in grief, but in action. Action against extremism, action against terrorism. Let us all unite in defending the values that terrorism seeks to destroy. And let's stand together for freedom, dignity, peace, and human solidarity. With those appeal and thoughts, I leave you until next week. We continue to support our diplomats and our national Indian resolve. Stay safe, stay informed, and dutifully ask questions. Bye for now.
Dublin South FM. You wouldn't buy a car without knowing its history. So why would you buy a story without knowing who's telling it? Come here and I tell you. It's not always easy to verify what you see, read, or hear. But now there's help. Visit www.bemediasmart.ie. Stop, think, check. Be Media Smart. Brought to you by Media Literacy Ireland, supported by RTE. 93.9 Dublin South FM.
Indeed, welcome back to the programme. That is 93.9 Dublin South FM, and here I'm the host, Siraj. Zaidi is here until 4 o'clock, and the time is really ticking over because the content is so rich today. And thank you very much indeed, Sharad, that you have put together a lovely, lovely way of actually explaining to the world, and that's where the programme is going to be. The worldwide people will understand where we stand when it comes to the Indian response to that atrocity. The earlier on, what I was talking about the referring to the Mr. Shashi Tharoor's speech. No doubt, Shashi Tharoor is a scholar, a writer. He has written wonderful books like Why Am I Hindu, Inglorious Empire, and several books. But there he had a little knowledge about the real, that's a clear-cut mistake, and I'm going to send an email to him just to correct him that, look, I mean, what you said is absolutely right and all that, but, the first surah of Quran is not Kalima. Kalima is not the first surah, as you probably said that in America, in New York. But there you go. We don't expect from him to know Quran or Kalima or anything, as anybody who's not belonging to that faith would not have a clue about other religions. But a person of his caliber should have certain knowledge. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's what it is. And what I'm going to talk about it today is obviously many things are happening around the world, and particularly the global world. That is the hypocrisy of the global world, whereby every day the killings of innocent Palestinians in Gaza is happening. And the program for the Benjamin Netanyahu is actually defined in his killing, because every day and perhaps that's, an average Indian doesn't give a damn about it, whether in India or here or anywhere else in the world. The new element of that is that in the pretext of that Hamas will be the people who would be getting benefit from the food distribution, but that's not the case at all. Hamas is their own creation, and they have the highly sophisticated navigation system, intelligence system to root it out. But no, it's not in their interest. What is in their interest? To kill people, as many as possible. And an average, if you think about it, 100,000 people have been killed over the last few days, literally the whole month of May. I'm counting. Every day, 9 o'clock news and television and whatever is the images and pictures of innocent people get killed, and innocent people are civilians, are defenseless civilian, homeless civilians whose homes are being bombed by that, and that is not acceptable. And the world is silent. I'm not silent. I'm using a small channel that I have here just to raise that voice, that the world must wake up and rise against that atrocity against humanity. The humanity has gone down, literally down the drain, what I would say. Yes, in the face of terrorism, as you've heard from Shashi Tharoor, and of course, the Sharad has actually put together a nice way of actually that we in Indians had been the victim of terrorism. But what is about this terrorism? What is this about Israeli terrorism about the killing of innocent people because they just want to grab that land, piece of land, which Donald Trump has said that I'm going to build Riviera there. I'm going to take over. I mean, hello, that is not going to happen. We are in the process of actually, trying to find out the way of protecting the Gaza land and how the Gaza land should be, under the aegis of United Nations, should be protected for the people who had been displaced, those who've been killed are killed. You cannot bring them back. But those who are displaced and are left, somehow it's their land. And this is the dilemma of the world. This concept of tension between India and Pakistan that has been erupted is also with the advent of the rise of our right-wing government of BJP, led by Mr. Modi himself. Yes, he is a delectable prime minister and all that. He's come up with this grand plan now. He does these sort of things, these grand plan. Go around the world, talk about this, and I'm not going to do that. You're going to do that. Shashi Tharoor, Owaisi from Hyderabad, Telangana, he is going to go around to the Muslim countries, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and all those countries, where Modi ji has been very welcomed every time that he goes there. So what is happening is that, global image of India has to be improved, and that's what is in the interest of the Indian economy, Indian growth, and all that. That has been nicely taken over. Now that the U.S. has actually given a special treatment, a tariff treatment, the trade treatment with India. So he is in the good books of Donald Trump anyway. And hopefully India will recover from the kind of losses that he had in the past and all that. And it will be. But on top of that, what India could also achieve a peace, if the peace prevails, is that they will rise in economy, because it's the fourth largest economy now in certain countries, behind certain countries. It will certainly be, more than the UK economy, more than after China, Germany, and US, and of course the fourth is India. Now that is a staggering achievement of what India was and what India stands now. So yes, it is making inroads in all forms and shapes of the world. It's not to mention the film industry, which is where I belong to. By the way, the 16th Indian Film Festival of Ireland will take place in September. From 5th of September to the 7th of September. It's a 3-day festival with few films, with the film stars traveling from India. This year, Javed Jaffrey is coming, and we are opening with a film called In Galiyon Mein, which is a beautiful film on the integration of Hindu and Muslims in India, living, intermarrying, and indeed the great culture of harmony and peace and multiculturalism. Unity and diversity, and interfaith marriages that are taking place in India regularly. So I'm very much for that, and this is the theme of that kind of film, In Galiyon Mein, which was recently screened in India and UP and Bihar and Delhi, received great review, and made a substantial business of just nearly over 4 crores, 5 crores in fact, which is a decent taking on a small scale film, less than 1 crore budget. So this is what is the potential of the nation is. Our nation is a delectable nation. People are the beautiful people in the world. Doesn't matter which part of the India you go, you'll meet beautiful people. People will deep in culture, deep in music, deep in ghazal, deep in filmmaking and all that. And that is just the beauty of India, because India is and unlike our neighbor country, and not monolithic, monoculture, monofaith country. Multi-faith, multiculture, multi-religion. Anyway, I have chosen today, and I've discovered a beautiful ghazal singer. Recently we met online, socially, obviously. She's a beautiful lady called Shailly Kapoor. Shailly Kapoor is a ex-corporate executive who had been working in the corporate industry in Hyderabad. But she's given up all of that and taken up her passion, and that is ghazals. She's a beautiful voice, very soothing voice, and seems to be a wonderful personality. I haven't met her in person, obviously, but we had been exchanging words on social media and on WhatsApp and things like that. So sit back, relax, and enjoy one of her ghazals. She seems to be the lover of Mirza Ghalib, and of course Shakil Badayuni and all these good poets of the north of India, which had been the backbone of the ghazal and songs in our industry. So her Mirza Ghalib ghazal is very much here, and I'm going to play this first track. Sit back, relax, and enjoy Shailly Kapoor.
को चाहिए एक उम्र असर होने तक आह को चाहिए एक उम्र असर होने तक कौन जीता है तेरी जुल्फ के सर होने तक कौन जीता है तेरी जुल्फ के सर होने तक आशिक़ी सब्र तलब और तमन्ना बेताब आशिक़ी सब्र तलब और तमन्ना बेताब दिल का क्या रंग करूं खूने जिगर दिल का क्या रंग करूं खूने जिगर होने तक हमने माना के तगाफुल न करोगे हमने माना कि तगाफुल न करोगे लेकिन खाक हो जाएंगे हम तुमको खबर होने तक खाक हो जाएंगे हम तुमको खबर हो यक नज़र पेश नहीं फुर्सत हस्ती गाफिल यक नज़र पेश नहीं फुर्सत हस्ती गाफिल गर्मी बज़्म है एक रक़्स शरर होने तक गर्मी बज़्म है एक रक़्स शरर होने तक दामे हर मौज में है हर क़ायसद का मिनहंग दामे हर मौज में है हर क़ायसद का मिनहंग देखे क्या गुज़रे हैं क़तरे पे गुहर हो देखे क्या गुजरे हैं कतरे पे गुहर होने तक परतवे खुर से है शबनम को फना की तालीम परतवे खुर से है शबनम को फना की तालीम मैं भी हूँ एक इनायत की नजर होने तक मैं भी हूँ एक इनायत की नजर होने तक गमे हस्ती का असद कैसे हो जुज़ मर्ग इलाज गमे हस्ती का असद कैसे हो जुज़ मर्ग इलाज शम्मा हर रंग में जलती है सहर होने तक आह को चाहिए एक उम्र असर होने तक कौन जीता है तेरी जुल्फ के सर होने तक
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful is the word. And शैली साहिबा बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपका कि आपने ब्यूटीफुल गज़ल गाई और मैं कोशिश करूँगा कि एक गाना एक गज़ल और भी हो जाए अगर आपसे लेकिन वही होता है कि then time in this program is very limited, an hour, and an hour is not a lot of time in fact, but let's see that if I can play in the last song. But I'm talking about, in fact, international issues and many issues that are affecting our world, the way we are actually very much in the process of trying to make sense of the world. In fact, because on one level, yes, you have heard how beautifully we have managed to control our how do I say the culprit which has happened with our neighboring country and all that. But then again, it's not easy to control of that. But with the help of United Nations, with the help of obviously with the help of the world, in fact, there were very much people who were involved, and it's not the only one which was the people who were. In fact, the world was involved, the people were involved, and the United Nations were involved. Not really United Nations, in fact, United States of America was involved. But another word, that's the reason that I have actually chosen the world comparative, juxtaposing the two things. One is what's going on in Gaza, where world is complacent, is the word. World doesn't give a damn about the slaughter of Gazan people. The entire nation has been ripped apart, and the plan is now to take over 100% Gaza. And then, as has been 70 odd years ever since this piece of land has been architected in the United Kingdom by the Balfour Agreement. The Balfour Agreement has been to give that land to the Jews over the Muslim land, and particularly the Palestinian land. There was no Israel. It was just the Palestine. In fact, the older people. So Zionism has actually turned the entire thing on its head, and then systematically supported by the Europe, supported by the United States, supported by UK and all that, and killing and everything that has been going on. But literally since 6th of October, which has been again a pretext incident has been created. Anyway, it's a long story. You can see that and read it everywhere. I am under pressure because the time is really running out, and I have another beautiful ghazal by Shailly Kapoor Sahiba, and that's 𝐬𝐭 𝐬𝐿 ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले. That is also Mirza Ghalib is there. Mirza Ghalib is something that is Shailly's favorite, seems to be. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this track.
हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले, बहुत निकले मेरे अरमान, लेकिन फिर भी कम निकले. निकलना खुल्द से आदम का सुनते आए हैं, लेकिन बहुत बेआबरू होकर तेरे कूचे से हम निकले. डरे क्यों मेरा कातिल, क्या रहेगा उसकी गर्दन पर. डरे क्यों मेरा कातिल, क्या रहेगा उसकी गर्दन पर. वो खून जो चश्मे तर से भर यूं दम बदम निकले. हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले, बहुत निकले मेरे अरमान, लेकिन फिर भी कम निकले. भरम खुल जाए जालिम तेरे कामत की दराज़ी का. भरम खुल जाए जालिम तेरे कामत की दराज़ी का. अगर इस तुर्राए पुर पेचो खम का पेचो हम निकले. मगर लिखवाए कोई उसको खत तो हमसे लिखवाए. मगर लिखवाए कोई उसको खत तो हमसे लिखवाए हुई सुबह और घर से कान पर रख कर कलम निकले हुई इस दौर में मंसूब मुझसे बादाशामी हुई इस दौर में मंसूब मुझसे बादाशामी फिर आया वो ज़माना जो जहाँ में जामे जम निकले मोहब्बत में नहीं है फर्क जीने और मरने का मोहब्बत में नहीं है फर्क जीने और मरने का उसी को देख कर जीते हैं जिसका फिर पे दम निकले हुई जिनसे तवक्को खस्तगी की दाद पाने की हुई जिनसे तवक्को खस्तगी की दाद पाने की वो हमसे भी ज़्यादा खस्ताए तेगे सितम निकले
This is the last song of the program, and हज़ारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले. Thank you very much for listening to today's program, and thank you very much once again, Shailly Sahiba, आपका contribution का. And indeed, I will be keeping you in the program for quite some time because I think your talent is extraordinary, and listeners should know who you are and should enjoy your voice and your content. Obviously, these are very famous ghazals from, the famous singers and the famous ghazal writers like Mirza Ghalib and all that. Anyway, that's all, folks. I have to go, so therefore, enjoy the weekend. I hope you have enjoy the program, enjoy the weekend, and bye for now. And see you next week, same time, same place. Don't forget to tune me in on next week.